I want to touch back on what you said, a no fault state in Florida. And I know you're certified in Florida and you probably can't speak to other states. So am I understanding, let's say a husband, let's just kind of paint the scenario. So a husband's a good husband, a wonderful man. And then one day he comes home and finds his wife sleeping with his brother or best friend. How can you do this? I've given you everything, blah, blah, blah. The kid's home and she files. He can still, it doesn't matter what she did, no matter how good of a husband he was, he can still possibly lose everything because of what happened. Am I understanding that correctly? I know that's kind of like a simple scenario, but I'm just trying to understand that.
I know, and I'm kind of like chuckling because there's definitely this stigma attached to divorce that the guys get the short end of the stick.
That was my next question.
Guys lose everything. I don't really see it that way, but we can talk about that. Yeah, I mean, if that's the scenario, she is still entitled to half of all the marital assets.
Wow.
She's still possibly entitled to alimony. That depends on the income and need and ability. There are men that get alimony. It just depends on the financial structure. But she could be a lying, cheating, whatever,
right.
And still be entitled to half of all the marital assets and still, get the kids half the time or whatever it's going to be. So yeah.
Wow.
There's no punishment for bad behavior in a marriage. It's not like you were a bad spouse, you were abusive, you were a cheater, so we're gonna dock you financially.
Wow. Are there any states that actually acknowledge that type of act?
Not to my knowledge. If somebody knows something different, I would really like to know that, but I don't think so.
Wow. Okay. And let's just say, I know a lot of young men are watching this because my main demographic is young people, men and women from 25 to 35 who are looking to get married. Right. So and I know the word maybe, and again, correct me if I'm using any of the wrong terminology. And I know there's prenuptial agreements and a lot of guys say, I'm gonna get one. I'm like, you're 25, you don't own shit. So you don't own any assets or property. So what is this for?
We'll protect your broke down truck and your iPhone.
Exactly. And your PlayStation, right? So, sorry, but can there be like maybe a prenuptial agreement, but it's not necessarily protecting assets, but like, hey, these are the rules. And if you violate these rules, what's it called?
Like for bad behavior, like
if you cheat on me, you lose everything. You're not entitled to alimony. Is that a thing that can happen?
Yeah, that's a thing. We see all types of things that go into prenuptial agreements, and generally speaking, a prenuptial agreement is very difficult to set aside or vacate or to fight or challenge. If it's done the right way, it's really difficult to get around those. But it also can't be against public policy. So like there are certain things that I just don't think are going to be enforceable. I mean, you could certainly try, but like something like, if husband, gains more than 100 pounds in the marriage, then I get, an extra $500,000 for divorce. I don't know if that's going to fly.
Why am I laughing? That's funny. You've probably seen that in real life. I don't know.
I haven't. I just came up with that. But I mean, I've seen all kinds of stuff. Yeah, there are certain things, like I said, you could put anything in an agreement, I guess, if you're going to, be willing to agree to it, but it still has to be legally enforceable at the end of the day. It has to be something that's going to be consistent with public policy. But yes, we do see agreements that have, provisions in there, like if there's going to be, cheating, or if the wife files first, then she doesn't get X, Y, and Z. So, I mean, you can put things in there.
Okay.
Whether or not it's enforceable, that's another issue.
Okay, that's that. It's a question that I've seen that's been brought up for a lot of men.
Yeah.
Because right now, I'm pretty sure you've seen it on social media. There's a lot of young men who are just walking away from women and walking away from marriage. The institution's dead. Yeah. And they blame either feminism or they blame the court system. They're walking away because they feel they're just not represented. Fairly. And a lot of them, like we just talked about that no fault scenario. A guy can be a great husband and then come home and see this, and then technically he can still potentially can lose everything. So I want to talk about that myth. You said that there is like maybe a myth that men do lose everything or maybe most of everything. Is it because there's not any effort on them to participate in the divorce, for example, like in my case, I was very involved with my attorney. We talked all the time. And I just made sure that I knew and understand all the legalities and all the subclauses in the decree. So is there any efforts that men are not maybe doing that maybe place them in that horrible situation?
Such an interesting question. I don't really see it like,
Okay.
and maybe I'll get, some bad comments for this, but I don't personally see it as like guys always get the short end of the stick, or they get screwed, or they lose everything. I think a lot of it has to do with if the man is the one that is the higher income earner,
okay,
or he's the one supporting the family, or look, if you're a doctor, a brain surgeon, and you choose to go and, marry the girl that you met at Hooters serving you wings, yeah, you're going to lose a lot in the divorce, because it's a balance of, what did you bring to the marriage and what did she bring to the marriage? But that scale can go the other way too. You can have a woman that is bringing to the marriage her own career, her own income, assets, a home, and then she may look at it like, I'm losing everything in the divorce because, I contributed just as much or more than the husband. So I think that I don't know if it's the men that are feeling that way, but they need to look at who are they marrying too.
Very good point.
I represent, so my ex-husband happens to be a firefighter. And so he sends me a lot of business. Love him for that.
Firemen, police, military, I'm sure.
So I represented a lot of firefighters, and obviously they have a really good retirement package, pension, deferred comp, different things that they get with that career choice. And a lot of them are so pissed off when I tell them that for however long they were married and however long they were in the department earning that pension, that's going to be seen as a marital asset. There's a formula to that. She's going to be able to get a cut of that when you retire. They lose their minds. And it's like, but you got to understand, yes, that was your income and your living, but this is someone that you married who maybe didn't come to the table with something like that.
Right.
But like I said, it can go the other way too. You can have a woman who's a school teacher and she's got a retirement plan being in the school system, and marrying somebody that, is self-employed and doesn't have a retirement plan. So now she's going to feel like shit. Sorry, I don't know if I can curse on this.
Please curse all you want. Yeah.
Okay. So she's going to be like, well, shit. Now, he didn't come to the table with a retirement plan. I did. Why is he entitled to half of my retirement? So it really does work both ways. For some reason, men take it like they lost everything. And maybe it's, like I said, maybe it's because men still earn more than women. I don't know. And then there's the whole other topic of the kids and custody, which that's even messier. But yeah. Yeah.
So I guess at my older age, I don't know, maybe I'm wired differently, because if I'm a young man, even when I was a young man, let's say I was a high income earner, but my ex-wife and I had to both work, right? So if you make an agreement with your spouse, like, hey, I want you to be a stay-at-home mom, I want you to raise the kids and do that while I'm going to build my career and finish school and climb the corporate ladder or be a chief fireman, do whatever. And 15, 12 years go by. I understand that if we get divorced, she gets entitled to half of everything. That just, in my mind, that makes complete sense, including my retirement plan, because she didn't work. She was raising my children.
Yeah. Just before this recording, I had a hearing via Zoom, and it's a case just like that. She was married to somebody who was a CEO and made, $250 a year. And they agreed that she would not work, and she had not worked for 17 years. She raised the kids. And this guy is like out of his mind crazy about why is she able to, get alimony now. And this is a whole nother topic. I know it's a hot topic. I'm going to get.
No, let's talk about it. Yeah, alimony.
But it's like, you were able to climb that ladder or have the freedom to work every day because you also you didn't have to worry about childcare or other things because you had your wife at home taking care of the house and the
Right.
kids. So I know there's many arguments to this topic, but yeah, I mean I agree with you that it wouldn't be fair to then expect a woman in this case to say, well, I didn't work for almost 20 years and I'm not going to get any support now. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you're the CEO making, whatever you're making. So
a lot of money. Yeah. and again, in those men in those positions, and again, there's women out there, but I guess I'm speaking to the men right now. You don't have to worry about taking your kids to the doctor's appointment or picking them up from school or the parent-teacher conferences.
Doing homework, right.
Doing homework. All that is the wife. Mm-hmm. And again, it's in my mind, it's only reasonable to say, okay, while I was working, you were taking care of the kids. So here's something for you to maybe go back to school, do something, buy a house, whatever the case is.
Right.